This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Okay, so everyone get your passports out. It's time to go to Finland. I mean, Finland.
Ah, nice. Nice. The Eelfin and Aelfin land, the land of the snakes and foxes. I mean, I guess we got there in the last episode, but now we dig in.
Yeah, we landed at the airport last time. Now it's time to get on the tour bus and go see some sights. Go see some local attractions.
Get ripped off by a couple of local charlatans.
Pick up a souvenir.
Yeah.
Pick up a souvenir moraine. Yeah.
A blue stone. A blue stone that you were snatching out of the fire.
Yeah. Also sustain a permanent life-altering injury. You know, a basic vacation to a foreign country.
Lose a friend forever.
Yeah, you do generally. The best trips involve losing a friend for all time who's also a hero of great international renown. And generally cause an international incident, I think.
Interdimensional incident?
Interdimensional incident, sure. But no, this is a lot. We're gonna go through a lot in these here chapters today.
Yeah. I feel like there's you said you had a lot to say, and I think I have a fair amount to say, so I don't think this is going to be a short episode.
No, it is very actiony, but the action is happening in such a weird, wonky, wild environment. I suspect we're going to take a lot of time to talk about it. This is basically a dungeon crawl nestled inside my Wheel of Time. These two chapters are a dungeon crawl. It's a man and his oddball collection of people running around through tunnels trying to get prizes and dodge monsters and deal with magic and physics that are not relevant to the normal world.
Mm-hmm. They just took a long rest, so they're fully stocked up on their magic and their fire, and he filled his slots with fireworks.
Right. They did all their camp casting, dealt with their inventories, got their best armor on, and they entered through the portal, and then they hit save game. we hit save game, and now we're coming back to play this crawl through this series of interconnected dungeons where the rules are different.
And we did the intro campaign, campaign 0 in the last one, where they get in, they get introduced, they get told the rules, right? Like they're met with the one guy, we get the scenario, the sort of environment. Now we're playing.
Yeah, but like we're on a fetch quest now. We gotta go fetch that magical glowy blue thing at the end of the wonky Hall of Mirrors. And hopefully not everyone in the party will die by the end.
Damn it, Thom. It's not polite to go kidnapping your wife. It's not how you're supposed to get them.
Well, but if you kidnap them from the kidnapper, does it cancel out?
I'm just saying, going to a foreign land, kidnapping your wife, taking her back to your, place. I mean, maybe, I guess if she was from there originally.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only... I mean, she did go there of her own free will.
Right. And she is unconscious and unable to consent on her way back.
Well, no, she did send a letter saying, please come rescue me.
That is true. Good point.
She did specifically say, I'm stuck and I would like rescued now.
Consent has been pre-approved.
Yeah.
God.
Help me, Step Gleeman. I'm stuck in Finland.
You're my only hope.
Okay. Should we actually read the book?
God, no. Why are we struggling so much with this? Because this is a fun one. I don't know. I think we're this is one of my, I think I was saying earlier, this is one of my favorite Sanderson moments. I think he writes the reveal of the Ashendarai as the key really well. I think he builds up to it really well. The action's really well written. The environment's really well described. This is sort of what the kind of stuff Sanderson really excels at, which is a very visual action scene.
Very technical magic, right? The snakes and foxes are lawful chaotic, if that makes sense, right? And so you really want someone who's rules lawyery doing that. Yeah, I feel like this is possibly my favorite of everything that Sanderson did in these books. Definitely it's in my top 3. Definitely this entire sequence is in my top 3 because it's been coming for so long.
Right, and the rescue of Moraine.
This has been coming for so long. Jordan gave us the Ashendarai in book 4. He took Moraine away in book 5, right? Like this has been... You can tell Sanderson's as excited to get to find out what happens next as the rest of us, right? and he's just what he's good at as a writer is what this scene demanded, and it's just a beautiful constructive wave that's more than the sum of its parts in so many ways. And yeah, the Ashendari reveal has me tearing my hair out every time because I'm like, just figure it out. But yeah, no, the first time I read it, I was like, I don't know what he's trying to figure out. I needed him to figure it out because I'm going to die of stress. But like literally right up until he figured the Ashendari out, I hadn't put it together the first time. Like despite, it's amazing. It's really peak Sanderson. And it's amazing that he's doing that with Matt, this character that he continually mishandles. He also manages to pull this out of the hat.
The mirror reveal that I think really works with this one is that the letter Thom has been carrying around says, like, you can't show it to Matt until he asks about it. I thought that was also a really clever way for, like, that's why he keeps bringing it out and handling it and flashing it in front of, and, like, going back and reading through the book. Like, I think Jordan really set that up because Thom is constantly pulling out the letter and, like, sort of thumbing it in Matt's face through the entire series. And, like, that's a really good, like, oh, yeah, he wanted Matt to ask about it, and Matt just wasn't asking about it until he was ready. And because that was like the pattern, putting that like safeguard, like you can't pass this checkpoint until you've achieved these skills. So you're not going to ask about the letter until, you know, you're capable of actually rescuing Moraine. And you've met the third, like, right? Like all those sorts of things had to happen.
And I mean, having the night flowers, having the arrangement with Aludra, having the ability to just call on her for, night flowers used to be so OP back in book 2, and now it's like, oh yeah, here, have a couple backpacks full. It's fine.
Knowing Brigida for all the inside information, having Oliver be playing the game, right? So that's also like, so he knows how to cheat, right? All those things had to happen.
Having Noel go through whatever internal process it was that Noel had to go through in order to like come up to this moment and be ready to do this sacrifice, right? Like we don't even ever get to be inside Noel's head, but clearly he is wandering and looking for something when he finds Matt, and he has found it by this point, to the point that he's willing to sacrifice himself and consider that to be cleansing of his reputation and his name. And like we never see that happen, but also the pattern needed Noel to go through that in order to be able to be here.
I mean, do we need to talk about Jane Farstrider's story and history part of this as part of the send off? Yeah.
I mean, probably because he dies. We should probably remember his life at some point and all that. No, this is big and emotional, and yeah, it's an action scene, but I don't see us going through it fast.
All right, let me read us in. The light of the world, and our symbol is the snakes and the foxes. Shocking.
The door symbol.
The door symbol, yeah. Although I guess I always pictured the triangle as being the other way, but I suppose it would make sense for the wide part to be at top.
Yeah, no, he describes, I read repeatedly very carefully because I was confused. No, it is always described as point down when he makes the door.
Okay.
No shuffling your feet through the doorway. You have to really step high.
And the wavy line I thought was horizontal, though. In the icon, it is vertical.
Yeah, I always thought it was vertical, but I was much less paying attention to that than I was to the orientation of the triangle.
Yeah, it's like a fox head shape where the wavy things go across the eyes, and then the points.
Matt finished by drawing a wavy line down the middle of the triangle.
Damn, I am just terrible at reading, aren't I?
It's good to know that we both don't have reading comprehension.
The light of the world. Thom held up his torch, inspecting the enormous star-shaped black columns and their glowing yellow lines. Those lines gave the entire room a sickly light, making Thom look wan and jaundiced. Matt remembered the stink of this place, that musty staleness. Now that he knew what to look for, he could smell something else too, the musty stink of an animal's den, a predator's lair. There were 5 corridors leading out of this room, one at each inner point of the star shape. He remembered passing through one of those passageways, but had there not been only one way out before? Wonder how high up the pillars go, Thom said, raising his torch higher and squinting. Matt held his Ashendari in a firmer grip, palms sweaty. They had entered the fox's den. He felt at his medallion. The eelfin had not used the power on him before, but they had to have some understanding of it, did they not? Of course, Ogier could not channel. Perhaps that meant that eelfin could not either. I think that's where I'll stop. Because I agree with that. I don't think eelfin can channel.
No, I don't think they have the same relationship to the power as the Ogier. But yeah, I would agree that neither of... It's fair to say that they both can't channel. Clearly, they have some ability to manipulate objects that interact with it. They can taste it. know what a Terangrial is going to do. They have some capacity to interface with knowledge of it. But yeah, no, they don't. They're not human. Channeling is for humans, it seems to me. Like there's a genetic component to it. I would suspect that there's a species component to it. The Aelfin and Eilfin are interdimensional snake fox people, much like the Ogier are interdimensional.
They're fairies.
Right, yeah, exactly. They're the Fae. They have other powers. And they know how to manipulate our world, but that doesn't mean that they have our powers.
Agreed. They have the ability, they exist in the fate web in a lot of ways that gives them the ability to see the future, right? I think of the web space that they live in because it's a web. It's designed like a web. It's described as a web. The foxes live in the straight parts of a web. The snakes live in the curved part of the web. And the web is strung between the black pillars in a lot of ways, and they see the future, right? And so they live in this web of fate that oversees the pattern in some way. And that's this world of the Fae, because they exist outside of time. They have the ability to tell the future. They know what's going to happen. They know he was coming back.
Yeah, totally. In Waldorf, the very first lesson they gave us in first grade, first day of first grade, first lesson, was that there are two fundamental units in the world you can understand everything through: the straight line and the curve.
Yeah.
Everything is either a straight line or a curve. And I have found that to be wildly consistent. It's so consistent. You can break something down into either straight segments or curved segments.
Linear algebra or calculus.
Right. And so every time you bring this up about the fin, I'm like, there it fucking is again. It's a straight line and the curve.
Mm-hmm.
There they are. There they fucking are. Again and again and again and again. It's always there. And yeah, they exist outside of time and space the way we understand it, but they're not the creator. They're not the dark one. They're not omniscient, world creating, omnipresent. They just exist in a very different relationship to space-time than we do.
And have some ability to sort of see the pattern, right? Because they look over everybody's head. They see the fate of these people. They see what's going to happen to them. Like there's some understanding of the whole pattern.
Yeah. Oh, Marzipan raises a good terminology question. In the Age of Legends, they said spinning webs in the way that we talk about weaving threads in the present.
The web of the pattern, right? Not necessarily, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of weaving analogies.
And just in general, fate spider, the fate web, the fate spiders, like the three women, right? There's
the Norns.
Yeah.
The spinners of fate.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, analogies of weavers as controllers of destiny are rife throughout various human mythologies and cosmologies. If you can take fibers and turn them into sheets, take strings and turn them into planes, you have some magic powers. You exist outside of the regular world of, gravity and fire.
Well, and on top of that, talk about the fact that programming comes out of weaving, and the idea of counting and creating patterns that end up in your, the early weaving machines were programmed essentially. And that's how we use the punch cards that were used for early weaving to create early computers, right? It's a whole throughput of essentially, and weaving was if you weren't a farmer, you were a weaver, right? Clothing, food, and shelter. Those are the three things. And if you're either making food, building houses, but most people built their own houses, and then clothes.
Yeah, acquiring fibers from plants or animals, or acquiring sheets of stuff in the form of skins, right? But yeah, being able to make that is magic. It's magic if you can take these little things and turn them into these much bigger things, and that it's it's literal wizardry. You use magic sticks, and you take the thing and you sing some incantations, and then you're warm. Poof.
Right, and what clothing does for us in terms of the places we can go, the environments we can survive in, both hot and cold.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so Matt, they come across the door frame that was melted when Moraine went through it, is the assumption.
This one is, melted. It's not the exploded one. Later they find the exploded one, but this is the melted one. And so, that has to be the one that burned in the trailer, in the wagon, right? We saw it melting. We saw acrid smoke coming off of it. This is that one. This is the one that Moraine and Lanfear came through.
And like, so this is in a way the room that Moraine and Lanfear were in when they had their little fight, right? So they were fighting in this room until they got like shut down and captured by the Finn.
Is this the point at which they've transcended out of the Tower of Genji and into the other? Because there's like 3 towers, right, in the overall layout. So the last chapter they.
What I'm thinking is maybe one tower is the one tower for each door frame and one tower for the Tower of Genji, and that's what the 3 towers represented, or the 3 passageways that connect the world of the Finn to our world. But
then when they pop back out later, they still come out of the Tower of Genji.
Yes.
You just rip your way out through the.
Mm-hmm. But don't they like find their way back to the beginning, right?
Oh yeah, I read this yesterday. Okay, right. So as of the end of the last chapter, they had gotten through the first foyer of the puzzle, and now they're in the room with the first of the redstone door frames, and it's melted.
Right.
And they're like, well, that's fine. We weren't going to get out through here anyway. We'll just continue. This is sort of a tourist attraction, scenic byway.
Okay, so the first place he visited with its twisted coils and circular doorways, that's the place of the snakes and the foxes. We see that in the next chapter. It was not like the second one with the star-shaped rooms and lines of yellow light. So a star-shaped room, lines of yellow light, that's of the foxes. This is the place that's the towers are not exactly square. They're sort of weird offset rhombuses or whatever, right? So when we get to this chapter, after they've traveled for a while, and they get to the door frame, it's in a place with it's a star-shaped room. That star shape tells me it's the realm of the foxes, which would match because the realm of the foxes is where he entered when he came in through the doorway in Ruidian.
Right.
The snakes one, he went through the doorway in Tyr. Remember, eelfin, snakes, foxes, they match.
There is logic somewhere. It doesn't have to make sense, but it does have to be consistent.
And he visits them first in that order.
Right.
Snakes, foxes, eelfin. I don't know why, because they're just, everything's in order, right? It works because we say them in that order, and that's the order in which they're named. That's the order in which he visited them.
Jordan pretended to hate us, but he did actually love us underneath it all.
There were a few things that make it pretty easy. I like his little analogy about, like, cattle being walked through the slaughterhouse a couple of times before they come back.
Yeah, it's really true. Conditioning people. And I mean, even in like a less sinister context of like slaughterhouses, like that's the concept of desensitization training, right? If you're terrified of like, I don't know, going to a large stadium, maybe you get to go to this, like a stadium game. Maybe you like get to go to the stadium first without people being in it and like experience that and get the lay of the land. You know, like there's so many ways that don't have to be sinister about this, but like, yeah, going into something that seems dangerous and then being able to get out of it without the sky falling. This can be leveraged for good things. This can help you expand your window of tolerance, or it can be used to get you to tolerate things that are going to be deadly, right? Either way. But it makes sense that Matt goes super sinister with the slaughter thing because, they are kind of gunning for his eyeball.
And his life.
I think mostly his eyeball.
Yeah.
I think they really want the experience of him being blinded and then going back into the world and giving them more memories. I think if he died, that would be the lesser of their options.
I think they would like to capture him though, and like keep him and like they could, the way they did with Moraine, where they sort of drained her connection to the One Power. He's this Taviran, and that's like even more potent. Right, the Taviran nearly collapsed their world because it was so potent. So I bet they would love to capture him and use that like connection to emotions. You know, Sons of Battles, which I think is a great name considering that's what they made him.
I know, right? Yeah, no, they mostly have good outcomes set up for themselves here. Like this really is him playing against a casino. Right? Like the house always wins is the scenario that the Finn have set themselves up to be in control of. The fact that he gets away as little as he does, they still win. Even despite everything, they still win.
So they're sort of going through and like, do we have a chance? And I like Thom's like, the prophecy said we have a chance, right? Like, let's just go for it. And they do. They have Matt's luck to even the odds, which is the only thing that's going to get them out.
Well, again, if you're going to win at a casino, it's going to be with someone like Matt's luck, right?
Right.
And so then we get upgraded eelfin. Not upgraded. We get more elite Finn coming at him. They call themselves the Near Ancients, the Warriors of Final Regret, the Knower of Secrets, the Most Skilled. It's like, oh, I didn't know they had hierarchies and grades. Like, I knew they had the ones that like gave prophecies as opposed to just the regular foot soldiers, but like, oh, we have elite warriors. It's like, what kind of society you people have?
Yeah, I mean, the Knower of Secrets, the Near Ancient, I assume the Ancient are the ones who stand on the pillars and like give the gifts.
Sure. Yeah. That would make sense.
And so these being the Near Ancient would be like those who guard them, the Warriors of Final Regret, as opposed to the Warriors of just Regret.
Now, the Warriors of Final Regret is a sinister and excellent band name. For sure. If we start a death metal band, that should be our name.
The Warriors of Final Regret. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like that. They seem scary, extra scary.
So they give up on the flute. You know, the music only worked so much. It seems like maybe on one it's fine, but in a group it's not working on them. They can resist.
It makes sense, right? Like a lone speaker against a group of singers, you know who's going to win, right? So a lone musician against an army of hissing, spitting warriors. Yeah, it might be a little bit less potent.
So Thom, pulls out his knives, iron knives.
Yeah, now we get to see how the iron... Because we've seen how music affects them, but now that's a little bit played out. So now we're going to see how iron affects them. Okay, iron can make contact. Any other material will pass through them like smoke. But iron, because Fae, will make contact.
Interesting fact that the blade isn't made of iron. I guess steel doesn't count. That's always inconsistent. I notice in certain mythologies is sometimes steel. They're like, oh yeah, steel's iron just with carbon in it. That totally works. And other ones are like, no, pure iron only. And this appears to be a pure iron only situation.
Yeah, because his Ashendari blade passes right through. It's only Thom's blade that he has specifically made to be iron that passes through. And then the Ashendari's butt end can make contact because it's iron capping on all of the momentum of the weight of the staff.
It does seem silly to me that he tries first with the blade when he knows that he needs...
I was a little bit like, sir, you could remember to practice with the medallion on the blade, but you can't remember that it's not iron.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Although, again, this feels a little Stormlight Archive where you have the blade passing through somebody, because that's just, what the blades do in Stormlight Archive. They kill the soul, but they don't actually cut you if you're alive.
Ah, sure.
So, I don't know. Just a thought.
It also makes me think of a certain velociraptor jump kicking. We get the steam thing where their blood is steam, but with faces in it, kind of like the faces in the clouds with the dark one. It's very creepy, very visual. So Sanderson.
And so this is basically them, as far as I can tell, attacking to stop them from getting to the bargaining room.
Yeah, and they're using the dice to get to the bargaining room, so they've come in to distract from the ability to do that. Right? They're like, oh, this is your technique. We will interrupt what you need, which is a quiet moment in which to roll the dice.
But they snatch him. So this is sort of them snatching the dice forces him into a more effective way of figuring out where he needs to go, which is the spin around and point.
Right. He's like, fine, I'll just be my own random number generator. It's fine. Which I'm almost like, you just say you didn't need dice in the first place?
But that's what he depends on. That's what he's used to. That's his representation of luck. But this spinning around is analog versus the dice, which are digital, right? There's only 6 options on the dice. Spinning around and running, you can go in any direction.
Sure. And also, it makes sense that his need is sharpening his magical powers, essentially, right? First, he needed the arcane focus, and now desperation is forcing him to be like, no, I don't actually need my arcane focus. I can just do it with pure vibes.
But his luck needed his dice to be taken away so he could do this other method. It was lucky they stole his dice, right? That's the level his luck is working on.
Essentially. Also, those are going to be some hella status symbol potent, ooh, look what I got amongst the lower ranking Finn. I managed to get some of that. I got the Son of Battles' dice, and then they can trade it and use it for favors, and it's going to be these
It's imbued with his luck in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, these things, it's not as good as his eye. But it's not nothing. It is he even says at the end that he really liked those dice and he would have liked to have them back. There's definitely going to be a lot of status to be acquired within Finn society as a result of possessing and trading those die. The gambler's dice, right? These are going to be mythic lore objects that actually have their own kind of power in the land of the Finn.
The horn, the dice. Yeah. So he says the spinning around and pointing worked before. When did he use that before?
Finding Tuon and Selucia when they ducked into the fabric shop.
Good callback. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most important other things in his life, right? Like, that's like the woman he loves, right?
The thing that makes the dice go off in his head more than anything else.
Right. It wasn't such a dire circumstance, but it was still a time when he had to upgrade his skills out of desperation.
So they're getting overwhelmed, so he tosses the first of the flashbang.
Night flowers.
Night flower.
Yeah, he tosses a grenade, which, it's hard to be conditioned against a large boom, even if you kind of know it's coming.
Especially in an enclosed space.
Fireworks at close range are very startling.
And bright, right? These things depend on darkness, and like they don't like light, they don't like fire. This is the cheating, right? This is the second of the music is played out. They've used the iron. Now they're on to number 3, which is fire.
Yeah, and they control the darkness, right? They can move in and out of the darkness. They almost have like a Fade's ability to use shadows to transit. So yeah, if he forces a daylight spell onto the whole area, that locks them into place for a moment. Oh my god, yes, Vucci, someday a future bargainer is going to ask for luck in some capacity and be given a luck ter'angreal, which is Matt's dice from, a different age. 100%. In like the 6th age or something. That's probably where his original neck ter'angreal came from, right? It's just something completely different. Something from someone else. Because that's always been the question, right? Is do they make or simply hoard and redistribute items of power?
Right. Here's my theory, right? Those dice, because, the fin are detached from time, they're actually given out quite some time ago and become the ter'angreal that Lanfear has in book 2.
That weird, the dice are all fused together thing that never went anywhere or meant anything. My brain started to go there as you were talking to, and what is the ter'angreal? Yeah, I could totally see that.
I mean, I don't think it works at all, but it's a fun little headcanon. Yeah.
I don't care. This is non-Euclidean logic. We're fine.
Non-Euclidean theories at this point.
Yeah. This magic does not need to make any sense. It's fine. Purely vibes based.
So they're able to charge sort of diagonally through one of the corners, through the darkness, into what doesn't look like a corridor, but just looks like a wall, but then they end up in another room. That was how I read it.
Yeah. It's a smoke and mirrors and weird lines that point to the wrong horizons, and he just trusts his luck and runs essentially headfirst at the wall, and then it turns out there isn't a wall there.
Yeah.
Tom is so impressed that he offers to let Matt play his harp. And Matt's like, I don't even want to play your damn harp. It's so funny. But yeah, it's a good, clever trick. And I think he's right that, Brigida, that's how they got her, right? You just keep walking right past the door. And never realize it's there.
Because it's right
you
there.
have to trail your fingers along every single square inch of the walls in order to know that one of those gaps is actually there.
And would that even work? Because if you're trailing your fingers along the walls, is there enough of a magical barrier that you have to punch through and know it's there, right?
Right. Yeah, you have to kind of run forward hard enough to break your nose in order to move through the thing. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. It's one of those, because it's a weird otherworld physics illusion.
Yeah.
So when he goes through, right, so he's gone through this shadowy thing, and suddenly he's in an area where there's no dust on the floor.
Uh-huh.
So this is sort of is there some sort of, not only are they in different places as they travel through, but are they actually in different times? And that's why you can't find her, right? Because you come through on a time that's much older, so dust has had time to accumulate, and then you pass through this area and you go sort of back in time to a younger time in the Finn's world. You go to a younger version of the Finn's world where it's not as aged, not as old, not as dusty. And that's how you can find. He had to not only travel through space, but travel through time to get to Moraine. That's why you would otherwise never be able to find her. That little corner passageway is because this is not Euclidean space and not Euclidean time. So you can pass through a 4-dimensional world by using 3-dimensional directions. And that lack of dust is our clue that time has changed and that you've gone back in time.
I'm almost thinking it's like a web and a gravity well kind of deal. The closer you're at to the center, the faster time is flowing. So out at the edges, you have long abandoned dusty corridors. And then as you work your way in towards the center, you are moving closer and closer to a more present, slow, real time, fast real time, kind of. Whew, my brain is.
The look you gave me was pretty intense. You were like, oh my God, your brain was working hard off of that little suggestion.
I don't think you're wrong, though. Non-Euclidean space-time, not just
Right.
non-Euclidean space.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially as per our earlier discussion about how they can see things in the future. That makes sense if they literally can operate on a web gravity well flexy thing.
Where them traveling through space also involves traveling through time, where they can see your future.
They can literally just walk the corridors of your life. That, I never thought of that, and that's why it took me so long to process that. But yeah, I like the idea that that's what's up with the dust, because the idea of them cleaning up certain areas versus not cleaning up other areas, that makes no sense. But as a marker of where you're at on the web with respect to the center of the gravity well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's just he spends a long time talking about this dust, and I'd have to go back and look at like what's going on before.
And then even in the next paragraph, he says time blended here. You know, is it a long walk, a short walk? Is it hours? Is it moments? Right? Like that's reiterated by multiple characters that deal with the fin. I think every time that we go into these spaces, the concept of time, and same with Teller and Riyadh, right? Time is a very tangible, malleable thing when we step outside of Midgard. You know,
Which and real and in the last battle, right? Time is, you know, in the series, time is very clearly manipulatable. So
and the Finn are fighting in that battle in Teller and Riyadh bubbles in that space. Like,
not to mention like real world, we know that time is one of these things. Like the if you're traveling at some fraction of the speed of light, we don't agree on how much time is passing based on what we're observing, right? Like time is not an absolute. Speed of light locks in causality, right? We all agree that one thing happened before another thing, but we don't all agree on how long before.
Yeah.
And it just, there's all sorts of weird things about relativity that are just fucked up when you realize like there is no such thing as simultaneous events.
Simultaneity?
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, no, you can't really say that these two things are happening at the same time if there's any distance between them. Because depending on the direction you're traveling, one could happen before the other. Yeah, no, relative. And so like, and not to mention like all the real world effects we know that like gravity wells have, that we know that like, you know, acceleration has, that, you know, it's clear that time is something that changes, and space too as well. Like we literally have lasers that fucking shorten and lengthen as gravity waves roll through our planet based on two black holes colliding, and we can measure the way that like distance itself changes with those lasers.
Yeah, those LIGO experiments really just upgraded my whole comprehension of the concept of space-time.
We're physically being squished when those waves roll through.
Like, space is as unreal as time is. It's just all based on motion and relative position to other things. That's all anything is just motion.
Yeah, if you had to ask me my opinion about, like, I think space-time are going to be discovered as emergent properties of something else that's going on, right? Quantum physics seems pretty solid and baked in. But quantum physics and gravity don't agree.
Yeah, one of them has to go in order to make it make sense.
One of them has to go. And it's going to be gravity, I think. I think that gravity, just because it's, you know, our fundamentals of space-time are too fungible, right? Like they change too much. There's too many things that can change them.
There's blurriness at the edges. Sense of certainty that gives way, whereas quantum physics is just uncertainty all the way down. So it's probably real.
But the way that time undermines so many of our equations, and time is like not a real thing, and just like I don't know, it's blowing my mind right now.
Thought is the arrow of time. Memory never fades.
And I think one of the reasons why these discussions, these books, so often diverge into physics discussions is because Jordan was a physics major, right? Like he took these ideas of time dilation and relativity, and he built them into the magic systems of his book.
Yeah, he wanted to make his nightmares that kept him up at night everyone's problem from a physics perspective.
And then the way that, like, in Minecraft, fucking the Nether is based, the way they have different relative coordinates. So you can go to this alternate dimension, travel for a short distance, go back to the big dimension, and you've traveled for a much longer distance. Are you familiar with this?
No, but that sounds like the ways.
It's what I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but my understanding is when Minecraft was built, the dimension called the Nether that you can transfer into has a 1-to-8 ratio. So every time you make a portal, it essentially multiplies the coordinates by 8, and that's where it portals you back to in the real world, right? And as far as I'm aware, was based on the creator of Minecraft had read the Wheel of Time and based it on the ways.
Neat.
So I think that's true. I've heard it. I don't have any proof. It might be apocryphal, but yeah, it's just sort of funny the way that like that relativity goes into the books, which then goes into these games, which is like which became one of the more popular games out there. Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so they've gotten farther forward. They've gotten deeper into the thing, and they get into a room that he actually remembers this time. Right, it's a star-shaped room with 8 tips and only 1 doorway. And 8 empty pedestals, right, where answers could be given, or where trophy Aes Sedai souvenirs can be acquired. Because this is finally, at long last, where Moraine is.
This is where we keep our pet Aes Sedai. She's just in a column. Like, I always wonder, like, what's keeping her alive? Is she being fed? Is she being, like, is it just magic draining out of her? Like, it's not like she can stay alive on her own. I've always just wondered, like, what, is she in some sort of suspended animation while being drained? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah, I kind of imagined it was sort of like a stasis kind of thing where, like, cognizantly, like, her soul and her mind are alive enough to be fed on, but, like, her body is kind of, in a stasis, a time loop, some kind of suspension. Because again, they can manipulate time. Maybe they've literally made her the epicenter of a warp in time, where time has like barely passed for her body at all. Like, how long has it even been for her? Right? She never gives us any idea of how long subjectively she experienced this to be. She says, I was there for a time. At one point, a man came and took away Lanfear, but like, I have no idea how long that was. Like, it might have been as little as a few weeks for her, even though it's been like a year for us. But yeah, I kind of imagine some sort of magical stasis that just only allowed her soul to experience time while her body just doesn't. Or it's a magical medbed that's, feeding and all cleaning and making her muscles be active, but that seems a little bit technical for sadistic fin magic.
Right. But they want to keep her alive to keep draining her, right? So there is this, like, to keep her alive, they have to do something to ensure that she's not wasting away from just, like, hunger and thirst.
Right. So I figure it's stasis. I figure stasis makes more sense than some kind of magically induced medical coma. Just some kind of put her in magic ice. Because they can manipulate time. Why not just slow her body's sense of time to like 100 to 1 or something?
Then there's this moment where he sort of like has I don't know if you want to call it come to Jesus, but sort of this empathetic moment, right? Where he says, I get Moraine now. I get what she was doing. I understand her motivation. And I both like and hate it because, again, I think it's a good realization, but it feels way too spelled out on the page. I'd rather see a comment where he says something or there's a subtle sign that he's had this realization. I'd rather be able to interpret this from something he does or something he says to Moraine rather than having this just spelled out on the page in his thoughts.
To me, it really reads like closure around parental trauma in therapy.
Sure.
Which, if you're doing big, intense work around your parental trauma, you do have to say it. This clearly spelled out on the page. That is like definitely part of what that process looks like. And this looks like a little chunk of a therapy session. Like that's what it feels realistic to me, because that's what closure around massive parental trauma looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I like it, because it's like, I mean, she is a parental figure to him. She is a mentor figure to him. There is a lot of angst and trauma. And like, this is how you would release it in the kinds of therapy contexts that I've been in. This is how you would describe that and like need to verbalize that and be like ugly crying through it. It is a little bit, heavy handed in that Sanderson way, but that is what big closure looks like. So I don't know if it's come to Jesus so much as it's closure. Because I don't really know what a come to Jesus moment looks like in detail as opposed to this.
It's the moment when he realizes all his hatred of Aes Sedai might like actually be wrong.
Which I don't think that's what this is. This is his hatred of Moraine specifically. This is him like letting go of a very specific like anchor that's been on that one relationship. This doesn't change his whole worldview. It just changes this like load-bearing part of his personality on the inside. Yeah, I like it more than most of Sanderson's emotional closure moments because it does look recognizable to me from therapy.
And I feel like he's got a pretty good read on Moraine, right? Unapologetic, unyielding, and selfless.
Yeah, that's kind of what Rand described her as too, being the most honest in what she wanted to do, the most dedicated without subterfuge. Like they both are having similar revelations around her in this chunk of the book.
Now, she omitted information all the time, but she rarely, was obfuscating that, right? She was usually,
She was obfuscating, actually.
A little bit. I don't know, going back and reading Eye of the World, half the time it's like, oh my God, she just like was up for 2 days and cast all the magic and it was at her edge and then cast another spell and exhausted and collapsed and hasn't had a chance to talk to them and didn't have the privacy. And like, there was, at least in the very beginning, I think she wasn't hiding as much as it felt like she was hiding. It was just she didn't have an hour. Then there were times when she could have told them stuff and she didn't.
Right. But like Matt and Rand both got to see her go through that transformation at the end of the Aiel arc right before, right? Because they both saw her before the Lanfear encounter, right? They both saw her going from the high and mighty Aes Sedai to someone who's like, no, I will literally throw my entire Aes Sedai-ness to the side to serve the mission in a way that Perrin didn't, right? Perrin was gone. Perrin was doing other stuff at that point. So yeah, she omitted a lot, but when push came to shove, she continued to do what she said she was going to do in a way that like many other Aes Sedai didn't. Many other just general smart, powerful people who were supposed to be the adultier adults didn't. Moraine always ended up still being on their side.
Because if you think about the amount of time she spent with them in the Eye of the World, it actually wasn't very much. A little more with Perrin and Egwene because she reunited with them earlier. But like, she sees them in the Two Rivers, gets them going on their journey. They do a couple weeks travel. They end up in Shadar Logoth. They all split up. That's most of the book with them split up. They meet back up in Caemlyn and immediately are off to Eye of the World. And then the Eye of the World happens. And like by the end of book 1, she's actually spent very little time with the boys.
Yeah, and she's usually scary. She shows up to say your worst nightmares are about to come true. It's hard not to see her as the harbinger of your worst nightmares.
Not to mention, she'll kill you if you go over to the dark side. And she's made that very clear.
Yeah. She doesn't become someone you can even begin to trust for a long time.
It's really not until like Perrin's locked up in the mountains with her, and she's like, don't go down to the... And then she and he are like fighting every day. That's the point where it really becomes a relationship among equals.
Well, and even then, Matt's not there because he's off in the White Tower. Like, they all have their own arc with her. But yeah, every time the push comes to shove, she comes down on the side of protecting them.
And mostly Rand, right? Because that is her quest. And she even says, like, I really fucked up by not putting more attention on the other two and really focusing on Rand once I realized he was the Dragon Reborn. Because for 20 years, that was her quest with the Dragon Reborn. And then there were 2 ta'veren with him, but whatever. Like, ta'veren are, she says, right, I should have spent more time focusing on the fact that there were 3 ta'veren in one village and not just that I found the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah. Sometimes the eldest child gets all the love.
Is Matt... Wait, I guess Matt would be the youngest for sure. Perrin's the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, because Matt gets away with everything. Everyone ignores Perrin, and then Rand is expected to save the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
all that closure and feelings aside, Thom is the one who's willing to throw himself in front of a bullet for Moraine for love.
Get his arms all burned up.
Yeah, he has to reach through the searing steam to actually physically collect her and like take that pretty serious hit to his hit points.
Well, and that's, I mean, talk about an analogy for love, right? Reaching through fire to pull your loved one. I mean, and that is the prophecy, right? Reaching through fire to snatch the blue jewel out of the flame. That's Thom.
Yes. That was a Min vision or a Egwene dream. Either way, it was a prophecy that he would reach through fire to get a blue stone.
Egwene's dream. Fire of Heaven, chapter 15.
Not long before she got thrown into that fire.
No.
And yeah, we get a reminder that she's itty bitty, tiny little woman, despite being a massive presence on the plot and on all the characters. She has to be naked for reasons, but then her future husband somehow magically swaddles her, so that's fine.
Well, he's got the Gleeman's cloak. Well, and also remember just how tiny she is. If he's got a cloak that fits him, it's going to wrap around her like 3 times.
Yeah, so she gets all burritoed up, which is good.
They take off the Angreal.
Yeah, which I feel like he's worried that it's like somehow like chaining her to the thing or like inhibiting her, which seems like a pretty safe bet. Like he pockets it, like you need it, but like I see why he takes it off.
Because it's a woman being tortured, like bent over backwards and chained hand to feet. Like it's not a pleasant bracelet.
Yeah, it looks like it might possibly make it harder to get her out of there. Maybe, possibly.
Exactly. Agreed.
It turns out that's not true, but I totally see where him as a warder is like, maybe the weird sadistic jewelry on you is not a thing that we need right now.
Not a good idea. So the pedestals are occupied by Eilfin all of a sudden, right? That's typical dream. You turn around, they're not there. You turn back around, they are there, right? Very, very dreamlike, time shifty, space shifty. And it says all 8 wore white instead of black. Did they wear black in his first? Like, I was trying to make meaning out of that.
I think so. I don't remember, but I like the idea that the colors invert when you come again.
And I was just trying to figure out like what the meaning behind them wearing white instead of black would be.
Probably that he broke the rules. The fact that he's there without, like the fact that they are there with different constrictions on them.
But specifically, it says all 8 wore white instead of black. And he wouldn't say that unless at some point they were wearing black.
Or was it just the other ones that we've been seeing earlier in the chapter that were wearing black? Or is it just that they're not dressed in the color of shadow because they're here to actually answer things?
Right. Yeah, okay, so here. A figure stood in the hallway behind them. It was one of the creatures Matt remembered, perhaps the exact same one who had met him last time. Short, bright red hair sprouted from the creature's pale scalp. A pair of ears clung to the head, slightly pointed at the tips. The figure was willowy and tall, the shoulders disproportionately wide for the waist, and it wore pale leather straps across its chest. Matt still did not want to know what those might be made of, and a long black kilt below.
Okay, so it's got to be some kind of rank classification thing.
So, but yeah, the one who met him at the doorway, the one who was, the had the cool band name.
Yeah.
He was wearing a black kilt.
Warriors of Final
or skirt.
Regret. And so at this point, Matt switches into the old tongue. His word choices change slightly, and we hear later from Noel, I think I caught what you said in all that old tongue shenanigan.
Right.
I believe this is the point at which Matt switches to old tongue, when he says, mark your tongues, speak amiss, and they'll have you strung up, right? That's in the old tongue. And I think that they both know enough to be like, he just said, shut the fuck up.
Right. Mark your tongues. Yeah, that he doesn't normally say mark your tongues. That's a very old tongue phrase.
It's very Shakespearean of him.
And that's because what he's talking to Thom, or Tom's talking, and then he hears, it's an Angreal from the Finn.
Right, they addressed him, and we know that they speak in the old tongue exclusively. So yeah, when they open the conversation...
And so from that moment on, he
responds in kind. He matches energy, one might say. Matches language.
Right.
Thom says, oh, well, I think this might be an Angreal, and then he hears... behind him.
And so Matt tries to sort of make a bargain, and they're like, no, the bargain's been made.
Just sign here.
Like the prophecy's already said what the bargain's going to be, which is half the light of the world, right? It's the title of the chapter.
Yeah, we set this up a long time ago. We've arranged this. We're just ready for you to sign.
And so then he makes I have 3 demands here. I want the way out restored as part of the bargain. I want it back where it was and open again. And then he sort of says, no blocking it up or making it bloody vanish when we arrive. And I want the way to be direct. No changing rooms about. A straight pathway. And you bloody foxes, here's where we mess up. Can't knock us unconscious or try and kill us or anything like that.
One word change and Noel gets out.
Finn, you bloody Finn.
One word change and Noel could have lived.
And then he says, we take her, we get out. That was sort of my third demand, was they take Moraine. Yeah.
The way out's open and clear. The foxes aren't in the way, and Moraine gets to come with them. One word, Matt. One word. One word. You don't even have to change the first letter.
Even if you just said, you fuckers, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. None of y'all get in our way.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's because he just thinks of the foxes as the bargainers, right? The snakes are the answer people. So he's just like, well, obviously the snakes aren't part of this bargain. And it's like, no. The snakes and the foxes work together when they want to. And as he, thinks here, like, they're kind of dissatisfied. They didn't expect him to get this far. And I'm like, yeah, I think that there are factions. Some of them are really excited for you to get this far. Others maybe less so. And yeah, it makes sense that the snakes would be another faction yet that can be called on if he does manage to slip the news here.
I think what throws you off is if you go through the stone gateway, you think you only visit the snakes or only visit the foxes, but they went in through the Tower of Genji, which visits both worlds. Right, that's the intersection of the snakes and the foxes.
Yeah. And then, they say, all right, fine, that's expensive, but turns out...
The bargain has been set.
We expected that. That's, we do understand that one of your eyeballs is expensive. So, here we go.
And the experience of losing it, and, I mean, there's so much seeing through his eyes, right, is something that he talks about a lot, is somehow like that's special to them, the fact that they're seeing through his eyes and seeing what he's seeing. And that's where I think where the eyes are so important to them, more so than just like the experience of having an eye torn out or...
Well, and also there's a preciousness to the fact that he gives it up willingly, taking it from someone that you have held down and has not consented to it is very different from someone who willingly steps forward and says, you can do this to me. You do not have to restrain me. I am consenting. Like, consent is a very magically potent thing when you're talking about dealing with otherworldly creatures. I mean, as well as, in real life, obviously consent is a very magical thing, but like it has potency in this sort of magical deal.
And that they're like, it twists around him, it spins. The fate, right? The fate web spins around him.
I can taste fate itself.
Right. Because he's become Odin, right? This is the moment in which, like, he's the one-eyed god. This is the moment in which his decision of rescuing Moraine changes the outcome of the last battle, saves the world, right? This is the moment in which the fate web is Taviran to the utmost. It is spinning around him.
He was fated to do this, and now he has chosen to step through that hoop, that crucible, that passageway. And he's completing his transformation into Odin, which, he hung from a tree for 9 days already, right? He started the process, but this is when he, gives his eye to the head of Mimir to see the future. He's, passing through, cinching shut, putting the bow on his fatedness.
And can I say, I really fucking hate the fact that he refers to his Ashendari as a spear here. Matt fell to his knees, spear clattering to the ground. Fuck you, it's not a spear.
It's an Ashendari.
It's an
always
Ashendari.
Has been, always will be. And in this moment of all moments, should have been respected.
And later he says, I was like, oh, maybe he had a spear and an Ashendari. And he was like, because he needed the iron spear. And I was like, no, that's the Ashendari. Because he scoops it up again and it's the Ashendari that he picks up.
One of the things I really like about this, too, that just gives you that little hint of the barb for what could have been an outrigger. Even though this is Sanderson writing it and he won't do an outrigger, he does have this moment where Matt says, no, this is the last you'll get of me. I'll escape. I'll get you out of my head. And the Eilfin says, we'll see, right before he rips out the eye. And I feel like Sanderson knows he's not doing an outrigger. Outriggers aren't happening. But that's one of the off-ramps on which an outrigger could have been built. And it's nice that he's just like, no, here's the healed stump of what could have been a branch for an outrigger.
Right. Because, Matt has this quest after the last battle to get the fin out of his head.
Yeah, he has two quests. Deal with the Shan Shan and slavery, and deal with the Finn still having one eyeball to look out of from him.
Whereas Perrin, Perrin's settling in to be king of two nations. Rand's off on his, Rumspringa.
his healing journey where he
Right.
re-meets himself. His journey of self-discovery. But yeah, Matt's got stuff to do.
The women have to buckle down and actually, run the world now that the men are all fucked off to do whatever. Because they're all left as the rulers, right?
Yeah, Nynaeve has to help repopulate a nation. Well, Egwene's dead. She doesn't have to do any more work.
True. They'll bring her back.
Yeah, she's going to go be a hero in the dream, I think. She's too
Yeah.
much a master of the dream. But anyway, the Finn have a very orgiastic good time with Matt's eyeball. The one that actually does the ripping out is basically like completely brains blown out, like a puddle on the floor. The others are also pretty worn out. It's a very intense experience, this culmination of so much that has been fated finally spinning out. And then he does an Indiana Jones and is like, I'm not
We get the
leaving my
reference to the
hat.
hat. Yeah.
Nope, that's a damn good hat and I'm bringing it with me.
Which, I mean, yeah, it's Matt's hat. It's got its own personality. It's got its own storyline. Like, that comes, all the way from Kadir.
Also, the Odin aesthetic.
Yeah, and it's the Odin aesthetic, right? And he has to pull the hat down over the shaded eye socket, right? That's the move that we've been waiting for since he's been the Odin hanging from the tree with memory and thorn, written on his blade. Which of the two ravens?
Memory and thought, right? It's not thorn.
Sorry. That is a different series by Tad Williams. A Song of Memory and... or what? Let me look it up because I don't want to get it wrong. Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn.
Ah.
So Memory and Thorn is, Memory and Thought.
Yes. And yeah, Thom goes, wow, I only had to sear my hands. God
Right.
damn, dude.
No healing's bringing that eye back.
No, the best he can do is not have an infection that goes up into his brain. That's the best Aes Sedai can do for him.
Then there's this moment here where Thom clutched Moraine close to his chest like a miser holding his gold. What was she to him anyway?
Gee, Matt, I can't imagine what that body language says. It will forever be a mystery.
The tenderness in Tom's face was not what Matt had expected to see. I'm wondering if there's maybe a little bit of like Sanderson being like, I didn't expect the two of them to be together in the notes.
I mean, I would allow it.
Yeah.
For him just being like, no, I mean, it's in the notes. I'm writing it. But also, like, I had a bit of a taken aback moment. Ooh, I like that idea of Uji. Maybe Elaine can figure out some kind of glass eye Terangrial thing eventually.
Nice.
If anyone can.
Or just like take the Foxhead medallion and somehow embed that in an eye.
Well, then he couldn't lose it easily.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think having read us, going back to the first 5 books, the relationship between Thom and Moraine was very clearly foreshadowed, and it was very clearly on the page, even if it was very subtle.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't question them being together. Like, going back, I'm just like, oh yeah, she was a mighty fine woman, and she knew who she was going to marry, and like...
You know what I think it is it's that it was flirting that older people would do, trying to be interpreted by much younger people. Right. This is people who have already been through some shit. They've had some heartbreaks, and they're flirting very subtly. And a bunch of like teenagers who have only just figured out relationships at all are like, I didn't see it coming. I'm so confused. It's like, well, maybe get some more life experience. Then it will make more sense.
And just oh my God, the meta conversation they had when they first met is so good and so hard to, if you don't realize that they probably know the other person on site, like maybe, or at least by reputation, if not on site. When she says, Thom, the Gleeman, and he goes, oh, Lady Moraine, she knows Court Bard and he knows Aes Sedai immediately.
100%.
And then the flirting is there because there's a level of respect in terms of like, she basically says, you don't tell that I'm an Aes Sedai and I won't spew out that you're actually a Court Bard and that you have secrets too.
Even though Court Bard means a lot less to the Two Rivers folk than Aes Sedai.
True. But they have that conversation, right? Like,
oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, they take off. They leave. Noel says, I think I've actually finally seen something that no one else has ever seen, which I'm like, okay, well, first of all, other people have seen this. There's 2 men here with you right now. Also, other people have come to the Finn and had interesting bargains, but whatever.
Yeah, I didn't like his whole like, oh, I've seen everything now, I can die. Like, what do you mean you've seen everything? I know you've traveled a lot, but like I've seen enough, I'm ready to go. I don't know. I never liked that, like, as a...
Yeah, it's whatever. But he does ask, should we kill them while they're down? And Matt says, yeah, so I'll break the bargain. So they scoot out of there, and Matt's starting to feel real good about himself. And even on my first read through, when Matt starts to feel good about himself, I'm like, oh no. No, don't pop the champagne before you get out of the evil place. Like, not evil, the Finn place. You're still in the land of Fae. Don't let your guard down. Like, it's just, but he does. He starts to feel good. He starts to feel awesome, even though his eye sockets still hurt like the nethers of a freshly gelded stallion. Ouch! That's spicy. Then Noel says, so my old tongue's a little rusty, but did you not specify that the snakes needed to leave us alone?
As they enter in the snake area.
Horrible moment. Yeah. That's when the chapter switches. And that was when I was like, God damn it, Matt. I knew your feeling of confidence was wrong.
Yeah. So now we go from feeling like we're up high on the top of the world to, oh shit, run. Everything's going to go wrong. This is the bad place.
Yeah. They're, just getting close to the finish line. And then it's run any direction as long as it's away. And then we go to the next chapter with the ominous title, The One Left Behind, which, if you understand the concept of plot armor and everything, it's obviously going to be Noel because Thom and Matt and Moraine have to live. Like, Noel was always going to be the red shirt, but...
The third. He was always going to be the third, right? He had to die to, life for life.
He's not really a red shirt, but he is the sacrificial lamb. Sacrificial old man. He's kind of the opposite of a lamb. Sacrificial ram. This
feels a lot like when Varen sent the 5 in, and for 5 will ride
5 ride forth and 4 return. You do the math, you're like, it's going to be Ingtar.
It's Ingtar.
There's no one else that can die.
And it was his death was almost, I would say, one of the best deaths in the series, right? Like,
very comparable to this one. Here's a narrow passage a lone man could hold back an army for minutes to let the others get away. It's kind of the same thing.
Even the same passageway. Yeah.
And I'm not mad about it. It's a good move.
And redemption in a lot of ways. Like, Ingtar was a dark friend, but Noel, Jane Farstrider, was manipulated by and compelled by Shamael and then later by Grendel.
Yeah, he was a sock puppet for the dark.
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, he's also done as many bad things as Ingtar did. And so it's a similar sort of level of redemption for, like, that's why he has to die, right? Is this like...
And they're both Borderlanders. Yeah, there's actually a lot of really, really good and juicy parallels there. In so many ways. I'm not mad about it. It's a move worth pulling out twice in a series this massive. And it literally bookends what a different time, right? That thing with Ingtar back when Matt literally just had a stick and didn't even have a cool hat yet, right? Like, and now here he is fully Odin'd out, but he still needs an old Borderlander on a redemption quest to hold the army in a narrow passage. All right, so they're running. We're montaging through a lot of running, a lot of smoke, a lot of night flowers, a lot of desperation. Like, we're really speed running just a nightmare scenario. They thought they were out scot-free, and they're not.
Well, discussing all the wishes that were made, right? They're trying to figure out some way out. He's like, how'd they know about your eye? What else did they say? Anything else can be a clue. How did you get out last time? Basically, that's the big, like, I almost think that the whole reason Jane Farstrider had to come along was to be like, so how did you get out last time? Because I think that's the question that really gives him the clue.
Thom's the one that asks that. I mean, they both ask it. Yeah.
Okay.
It literally says, what else did they say? Thom asked. Anything that can be a clue. How did you get out last time?
So just cut that.
I will. But yeah, so they're asking Matt, okay, do your trick. Tell us the way out. Because they're lost now, right? They've gotten off the straight path. And so Matt's like, okay, I'll do the spinny around thing. And then it's like, well, the snakes are too close. The path you need to go on is always occupied by the snakes.
This is back in the day when you had to print out the GeoCities map and you didn't have like an updated dynamic map and you could only have like the one route. And if you got off that route, you were just fucked. You had nowhere to go. And I want to get back on the route, but there's construction in the way. Everywhere I go, there's construction. Like, and you just get further and further off the path.
Yeah, totally. That's totally what's happening. And yeah, they're winded. They're running out of supplies. Looks like even cheating isn't good enough.
Right. His luck tells him the only thing you can do is run back through the Aelfin, the snakes.
And so that's when Noel does the math and is like, I can buy you enough time to get enough distance to be able to go back and forth, because that's the only way that you can move out across the web.
You have to be 2 rooms ahead so you can go back a room. And they're only 1 room behind, so someone has to stay behind.
Yeah.
Athlon's correcting me. Not GeoCities, MapQuest.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, MapQuest.
GeoCities was the web blog hosting site. I know that.
You knew that back before your memory went, because you're old. Because you remember things like GeoCities and MapQuest.
I don't think that happened because my memory's never gone. I would remember if my memory went.
How's your back? How's your knees? You take an Advil?
We literally put a new mattress topper on our mattress yesterday because my back has been hurting so much. And Never's hip has been hurting too, but yeah. And my knees, they make noises when I stand up. That's fine.
Yeah, they've always done that, for sure.
Yeah, sure. And the noises don't hurt at all.
Uh-huh. I'm sure they don't.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Hey, listen, I'm in pretty good shape for my age. I will say I can get up and down. I know a lot of people who are in their mid-40s who have a lot more trouble with their physicalness than I do, for sure. I still feel like I'm in my, late 30s.
Cool. You have a few years lag. Excellent. So before dying, Noel does the thing where he tells Matt, if you ever meet a Valkyrie, tell him Jane Farstrider died clean. And Matt, rolls with that emotional punch and deals with his surprise later. He just immediately says, "Gotcha, Jane." And then, afterwards kind of is like, wait a second, did that just fucking happen?
Thom, meanwhile, is like, yeah, I knew. Of course he was Jane Farstrider, you fucking moron. Like,
which is presumably why Noel made the statement to Matt and not to Thom.
Right.
He's like, well, Thom would say that anyway. Matt's the one who needs to be told directly.
Right.
What's up?
It's just like, oh my God. Yeah, they've got the same fucking last name. He called him his cousin. It's like, yeah, a friend of mine was trying to buy some weed illegally.
Yeah.
If by a friend of mine, do you mean you? No, not me. His name was...
No, it was my brother.
Sean Tolson.
Yeah. Totally. The other last comment I had about this is that Noel screams a battle cry not in any tongue Matt had ever heard. So not the old tongue.
Yeah, we've heard that a couple of times where he's like said something in a tongue that Matt is not familiar with. I assume that's just there to be like, he's traveled so far, he's heard of languages that even Matt, with all of his fast lives, has never encountered. I assume it's just he's so far traveling. Because he's not screaming out in Malkier.
Yeah, Malkier doesn't have its own language, and the old tongue is something Matt would recognize. So I'm just like, what random place that he traveled in his life matters so much to him that is the language he wants on his lips as he's dying?
Seems to be, yeah, I agree. Sharon, because he did travel to Shara. And my assumption is that no one from Shara has ever traveled through the gateways because they're in Randland. So there's no memories from Shara for Matt to pick up on that language.
Sure. Yeah, that totally makes sense. But again, just like, what in Shara mattered to him more than all the things in Randland? Like, he talks about his wife's death really affecting him, but he doesn't, scream things in old tongue Malkiri ceremonial stuff. It's like, what happened to him in Shara that makes that the thing he wants to be his last words? Confusing.
I think it again, it's more to say, oh yeah, he's traveled far and he's actually Jane Farstrider. This is something that Sanderson does, right? It's for the plot.
Maybe that also matches the clothes he was wearing. Maybe I was wrong before about them being Valkyrie clothes. Maybe they're clothes that match whatever the language he's speaking is, because then there would be some congruity with how he's choosing to die. Like, for whatever reason, that's how he wants to go out, is with that dress code and that language.
And one kind of assumes he spent, the last 40 years in Shara, right? He was a 20-ish year old, 20 to 30 when the Borderlands fell, when Lan was a baby. Lan is now 45-ish, right? So one would assume that 40 years ago, he traveled over to Shara and was there for, the majority of his life. But, the travels of Jane Farstrider, he was traveling.
Yeah, he went all over the place and had time to write a book and had time for that book to propagate out across the Randland continent and become part of like household conversation.
One would assume the travels are the first 10 years of his journey.
Sure, yeah. But still, I mean, when did he have time to go on a book tour if he was in Shara the whole time?
Well, one would assume, I keep saying this, I assume someone like Thom wrote the book based on stories that he told, and I don't believe Jane wrote the book. Someone else is writing the book, The Travels of Jane Farstrider.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
Oh. I always assumed, Marco Polo style travelogue.
There's a bard somewhere with his name at the bottom of that, the biography that,
Oh, sure, yeah. The definitive biography by...
Otherwise, it would be My Travels as Jane Farstrider.
Sure. But still, and then Chad's telling me that Marco Polo wasn't even written by Marco Polo. Okay, well, that makes sense, because he was a lying, cheating bastard. But still... There has to be time for him to have the travels and have that story get put down and have that story propagate out across the world so that way everyone knows it and has at least heard of a copy of it.
But again, think about it. 40 years ago, Malkier falls, 45 years ago, whatever, right? He's traveling for 10 years. The book is published, has 10 years to spread, then Rand is born. So, it's super popular 10 for 10, maybe, and then he reads it as a 10-year-old.
And so then around the time that Rand is born, Jane is going over to Shara and spending the better part of 20 years there. So he's pretty recently out of Shara, within the last 5 years before now. Well,
and don't forget, he's one of the ones who talked about the Eye of the World, right?
Yes.
He was compelled by Ishamael to give the message about the Eye of the World. That's why he was sent forth like a fool, right? He gave that message that was a trap.
So does that mean he was plucked out of Shara to be turned into a sock puppet to deliver that message? Does that post-date his time in Shara? Assuming that Shara is where he was.
Let's see.
I need the timeline of Jane Farstrider, please.
Right. He was young when he brought the Fair Heart, the Dark Friend, betrayer of Malkier, before the Great Lords of the Seven Towers to face justice. So he sort of and he was instrumental in arranging the downfall of Malkier. Shortly after the Aiel War, so 20 years later, basically at the birth of...
Right, when Rand was born and when Lan and Moraine joined up, more or less.
Yes, right. All this is happening. Decades after the fall of Malkier, Jane appeared at an Ogier steading near death and conveyed the message that the Dark One was going to bind the Eye of the World. He recovered in the steading, then left. So before that time, he had been compelled by Ishamael.
Oh, okay. And that was at the end of that period of his life.
Yes. Ishamael told Rand he had allowed Jane to believe he had escaped to lure Rand to Tarwin's Gap. But that's at Rand's birth. 20 years later, Grendel is using him.
Right. And we don't know how she acquired him.
And so he never escaped to Ishamael. Now, what he was doing in those 20 years, one would assume he was in Shara, somehow, being kept track of by Ishamael.
So while Rand was alive is when this chunk of Jane's life is occurring, in which we are assuming he's off in Shara, becoming an adopted son or whatever it is that's giving him this language and costume upgrades that is so foreign. But also still, always being tracked by Ishamael and then able to be yoinked from that life abruptly by Grendel, I guess. I guess that's why he's back in this. Maybe that's why he has this other language and this other outfit and all this stuff, is because he was ripped untimely from his comfortable life in Shara where he thought he was free. And he just wants to get back to that because that was the life he had made for himself after getting away. And he's just kind of in this perpetual state of being sad that he got taken away from the life he built for himself. Too bad he never fucking mentions it once. There's so much angst and heartache that could be happening here, but instead he's just like, well, Matt seems like a good person to follow around, and I'm only going to talk about my wife from before all this shit went down.
And so remember, he's in Ebu Dar because Grendel's trying to use him to find the ter'angreal cache. He's a tool that she's using to find the cache.
Yeah, why? That's what he was there for? How was he supposed to find a cache of ter'angreal?
Because he's just a clever guy who's looking around. She had a bunch of people there looking for the cash, right? Basically, all of her tools were pointed at looking for the cash in Abu Dar.
So why did she get access to him, per se? Like, what gave her the right to use him for such a menial, boring thing to do? Like, using like a circle of dumbass dark friend Aes Sedai is one thing, but why would you use this singular old man who's halfway around the world and already played out because he did other stuff? Like, what makes that a tool you bother to reach for?
He's famous enough. Like, I think that's the one thing. He's so famous.
You don't need fame in order to do subterfuge. That's like the opposite of what you need.
You do for Grendel. You do for Grendel. She only takes the famous and pretty people. And he's famous enough that he doesn't have to be that pretty. But she sends him away.
To just be a rat terrier looking for some random treasure with a bunch of other people who aren't famous? I don't know. That's weird.
Maybe she likes the old men. I don't know. Like,
there's a lot of unsatisfying answers to Noel's entire context.
Sure. But, looking at this, right, looking at the timeline, he spent 25 to 30 of the past years under the influence of Ishamael, and really only broke out of that compulsion when he encountered Matt and was able to sort of like save Matt and whatever light compulsion Grendel had on him, he was able to shake that off to become Matt's friend.
Having even one Noel POV would have been so freaking illuminating. Even one time in that man's head would have given us so much to nail this down with. So yeah, they get out. Noel makes it possible for them to get out of the loop with the snakes, and Matt had a brief moment of thinking maybe he's a hero because he allowed his eyeball to be ripped out, but he is immediately disabusing himself of that, being like, no, that man you left behind is the real hero. I would argue that you're both heroes. Willingly allowing someone to rip your eyeball out is not a non-heroic thing just because another man decides that he needs to throw himself on a grenade a few minutes later. Like, you can both be heroes. It's not pie.
So we're back, in the snakes area because you can see the three spires.
Yeah, they essentially are able to leap from one tower to another by doing the back and forth path thing. They get a very large distance away.
Well, I don't think they're in another tower because you can see all three towers. They are actually in the snakes part of the web, right? And because they're heading back to the first doorway, which is in the snakes part of the... I guess it's not... I want it to be in one of the three towers, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, the three spires are one unit of the space. Yeah. It's not the whole space. But yeah, they were in the three spires, and then they jump out really quickly because of the magic of how the space doesn't work.
Space time, yay.
Continuing onward towards the answer chamber, and then Moraine's starting to wake up, I'm assuming because they're getting away from the time stasis energy sucking field that they've been in, so she's starting to like come back into her body and into real space.
Right. I assume just recovering from the suckiness, right? She's been sucked, to the edge of unconscious and exhaustion. And so she's just like needs to rest.
Yeah. And like also, if we're imagining she was at the center of like a gravity well where her body was in stasis, like take a second for her to like warm up and like get her heart rate back to where it should be and like just, come back into it. And so then they come into this room where there was a redstone doorway, but it's all exploded into chunks. It's not melted, it's shattered.
Yeah. So this is the stone doorway that was in Tyr. And we never, I don't think we ever see it from the Tyr side of things, right? It's just continued to be tucked away.
Yeah, I briefly thought that this was in Kyrian and got smashed when the ring in Kyrian got smashed, but the Kyrian and Tyr are not the same place. So I don't think that's what happened.
I think what happened is a Ishamael, Moradin. Moradin came in through because the other one was melted. I don't believe he came in through the Tower of Genjai. I think he came in through the Stone Terangrial in Tyr, killed Lanfear, right? Because that's how he got her out. And we know that he went in there because Moraine says, a man came and said, I'm not looking for her, I'm looking for the other one. And we know that was Moradin. And I believe he destroyed it on his way out.
Just as a final fuck you to anyone that would try to rescue Moraine.
Basically, yeah.
That makes sense. I really wanted it to connect to an actual event we saw on the outside, but it can't. And
he can use the true power to destroy things, right? Like that's the sort of... One would assume that also Lanfear was using the true power when fighting Moraine, maybe. then that destroyed the... I don't know if we can assume that.
I don't think we can assume that, but I could totally see Moradin using the Fist of God crush attack with the true power to destroy the doorway on his way out. That totally would fit with his MO. So yeah, they're stuck assessing their options or lack thereof. Matt does his spinny trick and he points at the door. I think you should be pointing at the Ashendari, personally. I think he should trip and fall nose first onto his spear kind of deal. But, whatever. We need to ratchet up the tension. And yeah, Moraine kind of wakes up in time for Thom to give her a goodbye lullaby while Matt, freaks out and figures out how to get out.
Here's why I thought Noel had asked, how did you get that last time? Because it literally says, how did you escape last time? Noel had asked.
Well, maybe they both asked him at various points, and it's Noel's voice that rings in his head louder.
I think that's interesting. I think that might be a typo. Because you're right, Thom asked it in the book.
But I mean, I could totally see Noel having asked that prior, because it's a really important question. And we just maybe aren't remembering, because why?
That's just wrong.
Bummer.
That's just bad editing.
That sucks.
Because, you pointed that out, and I was like, why was I so certain that Noel asked? And
Because it sure says so on the page. You're not wrong.
Because it says so on the page, yeah.
But,
it says he asked.
That seems like a typo.
That does seem like a typo. That should be Thom had asked.
Mm-hmm. Or Noel should have asked it in the first place.
Or Noel should have asked it, yeah, right.
Because it's much more satisfying for it to be this lingering, haunting question from the man who just died. Thom doesn't need to ask it. Thom says plenty of other things. That line could have been given to Noel just fine. Alas.
But yeah, Thom says, how did you get out? They threw me out, Matt said. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just kind of replaying that conversation in his head. Because, ultimately, it doesn't matter who asked the question. The point is that he is now going over the answers to that question with a fine-toothed comb, while Thom leans on the power of music to bolster their spirits as they all face down certain death.
Yeah, no, I just reread that whole section. There's no point, does he say anything. All right, okay, I can move past it.
The point is that Matt keeps realizing he didn't ask to be thrown out. He asked for a way out, and the Ashendari didn't answer any of his requests except getting out. But he just back and forth while Thom goes from this whispering, quiet song to this thunderous, triumphant, defiant chorus. And then Matt does just the Sandersonest of visuals and just stabs the wall, and it sprays light blood from a vein.
The spraying light is 100% a Sanderson
so
thing.
Good.
Yeah,
it's
super
so good.
And the build up to it, he spends a whole page on each one of the wishes, right? So the build up is really this moment where there's this tension happening and all these people are approaching, and he spends a long time, he thinks about, I would want these holes filled, and he thinks a lot about that. I would want to be free of the Aes Sedai and the power. He thinks a lot about that. And I asked for one more thing. I said I wanted to be away from them and back to Ruidian. They gave me everything I wanted.
But I had not asked for a weapon. He keeps coming back to that. I didn't ask for a weapon. I use it as a weapon, but it's not what I wanted. I wanted a fucking key.
And what? They sent him back to Odin to hang, but hanging was the price, not an answer to his demands, because they sent him back to hide the fact that he had another way back. And then, thus our treaty is written, thus the agreement was made. It was carved onto the weapon. He had not asked for a weapon. I asked for a way out. And they gave me this. And that moment, then they gave me this, is and I have the key, that's just a great moment.
It's so climactic and triumphant and hell yes. And you want to see your heroes just pull out a Deus Ex Machina when they're backed into a corner. It's excellent.
And then, yeah, the whole, it's a passageway out of the realm of the fairy, because, being trapped in the realm of the fairy is definitely, a theme of fantasy, and this whole thing of, I really like the way this legend fades to myth. I hate his final statement. Tell the foxes I'm mighty pleased with this key they gave me. Fine. You can all go rot in a flaming pit of fire and ashes. Fine. You unwashed lumps on a pig's backside? No.
Have a grand bloody day. Fantastic. But I agree. I would have liked it to go from I'm mighty pleased with this key they gave me. Have a grand bloody day. That is how I expect it to go. The weird poop-based insults was just like, what? It's funny because butts? Are we 12?
Wait, yeah, unwashed lumps on a pig's backside? What?
It doesn't even, like, just say, you let me get out, have a nice day. Like, the have a nice day, mwah, mwah.
Maybe you can go rot in a flaming, pit of fire and ashes, which again is a little too close to you can go to hell, in my opinion, because they don't have hell in this world.
I would have just, like, looks like the game can be won. Ta-ta for now. Like, it's just, it could have been a one-liner, but instead it's a three-liner, and it's no good. But he's got his hat. He's the last one out. He's got a pithy rejoinder. And with that, we can close one of the most excellent Sanderson conclusions to a book's long-standing, foreshadowed epic rescue scene. And Moraine is back. Dun, dun, dun. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was enjoyable. The reveal in the Ashendari I love. I know we didn't talk about it as much, just other than I thought it was great. Yeah. I don't know how to, you have to read it to experience that sort of great reveal.
Yeah, the part where he lets the eye get taken out and the part where he discovers the Ashendari are both, almost 2 pages of just go reread it. It's just good.
This is just good.
I can taste fate itself. It's just, mwah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the promise being fulfilled of the rescuing of Moraine, the promise we were given in real time, right? It was a solid 10 years between the promise of Moraine's rescue and seeing it on the page, right? Because I think from 96 is when book 5 came out, 95, 96 in that era. And then we waited till 2005, 2006 for the Memory of Light, Towers of Midnight.
Well, but the letter is a really important midway point too, right? Because first we lose Moraine, then we get promised that she's going to get brought back eventually. Then Jordan dies, and we're like, how are we ever going to get Moraine? And it's like, this has been strung out for a while. Yes, it's been 84 years. If it's been a day, for sure.
Definitely feels like it. But love that bit. Love that part of the Wheel of Time. Like that chapter. Despite, I can criticize a few things that Sanderson includes, some Sanderson-Onian isms, if that's a word I'm making up.
It is a word you're making up, that's for sure. But yeah, no, that was fun. I'm glad we did it as one episode. It was definitely a fat recording. Will be a lot shorter in the finished version because all that research and being wrong about stuff was removed. You're welcome, people.
But we were never wrong about anything.
That made it to the final cut. Actually, that's not true. We've been wrong about many things that made it to the final cut over time. That's why the audience calls us out on stuff.
Good audience, and good live audience as well.
Yeah, we had a big crowd today.
Oh yeah, I wasn't checking it.
I guess a lot of people were excited for us to be yelling about the snakeses and the foxeses.
I think I find the biggest crowds on the exciting good chapters. People want to be here for the rescue, taking out the golem and the rescue of Moraine. And I bet the last battle will be a pretty big one.
Ones,
Jesus Christ. I've started to break down A Memory of Light. I think I've said this before, but just the constant POV switching makes it very difficult to figure out exactly how much we're going to be able to cover in a given episode. So I'm mapping it out, but it is very non-standard when it comes to A Wheel of Time. Book length, chapter length, POV length. It's going to be a very different experience, I think, to podcast through it. It'll be the same, but different, but same.
Maybe we just do it by a number of pages with no adherence to the narrative, whatever. We just go by we're doing 30 pages. And we're just doing it in 30-page chunks until we get through the whole thing or whatever.
The last battle, you mean?
Yeah,
at least?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Memory of Light, I don't know about, but just specifically the last battle. Maybe we just do it by just sheer page count.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, or just, we tend to cover 3 POVs a chapter, and so maybe we just keep that up, right? And maybe, and if we do 2 chapters worth, maybe we do 5 POVs per episode.
But for now... we should probably wrap this recording up so that we can take a break so that we can go record our other stuff.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks to the big crowd. Really appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Really, really fun to see so many familiar names there. And yeah, we're getting near the end of this book. We will see you next week for more of this. And eventually we'll let you know what our schedule is in a way that doesn't sound like planning on air.
I mean, next we've got the last 2 chapters in the next episode, and we're doing the epilogue separately, but basically we're finishing the book in the next episode.
Damn, we're wrapping up both of our podcasting books right around the same time.
Yeah, we're both same. They'll both do the final chapter, I think, in the same week.
Okay. Cool. I don't know how time works, which makes sense, given that we were just in the Tower of Genji, where time doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, we're doing the Field of Marilor, a little more Thom and Moraine, and then an epilogue. But this was kind of the final scene. This was the, penultimate scene, the big final battle, the big final escape was the rescue of Moraine for this book.
This is the climax of the book. We just have to do a little bit of wrap up next week, and then, wow.
This is the climax of the book.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And there was a little bit of of Avienda going into the columns. That was a 2-chapter sort of mini peek. But we've been on the Sanderlands for a while. These have been a lot of exciting chapters. And that was sort of the final one.
Wow. Cool. Well, there it is then. Tune in next week for the last chapters of this book, I guess. Bye!
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.